Hello and welcome to The Download from Wise Woman and Wordsmith, where insight meets inspiration. A space for creatives, dreamers and visionaries ready to spark new ideas, ignite purpose and reimagine possibilities. Here we share downloads of wisdom, stories and strategies to help you thrive in your creative journey. I'm your host, Jill Marshall. Tune in, connect and let the magic unfold.
Show you tomorrow.
Hello, lovelies, and welcome back to The Download, the podcast where we explore the beautiful, mysterious connections between inspiration, action, magic, and the miraculous timing that brings it all together. For instance, just yesterday, I decided, as I hadn't made any other plans, to make the most of a hideously rainy day, to buy some much-needed items and then hunker down in a cinema, both of which I could do at the local mall. As I waited under a tree for my Uber, I used the time to idly consider what my next podcast episode might be about. In effect, I asked for the download. So seconds later, the Uber turned up. We joked about the weather, as you do, and the rain-slicked roads, and then started discussing the driver's other careers. He immediately pulled out a book, all about accessing the subconscious mind. And in the 7 minutes it took us to cross town, we discussed all sorts of esoteric matters, including the way for him to shift into consciously following his subconscious mind, instead of just considering it to be coincidental or luck. To my delight, I was able to say, I actually have a podcast that might help you. I was also able to add that I'm no longer surprised when things like this happen, because I consciously follow my subconscious mind all the time. And honestly, I wonder if the local Uber drivers have noted my inclination towards these discussions, because I've had some amazing chats over recent months that seem to start within seconds of my seatbelt being buckled. They must be discussing it somewhere, or is the universe. Then, to my even greater delight, I walked into the mall, expecting miserable shoppers, and instead being greeted with a rousing brass band rendition of That's Entertainment and a mashup of Hollywood musical classics. I love Hollywood musicals. It turned out, as it's Anzac weekend, that the New Zealand Veterans Band was playing for free for an hour in the middle of the mall. They were absolutely brilliant. I would have paid to listen to them. And I hung over the balcony for the next 50 minutes, clapping and cheering, wishing a happy 100th birthday in Thailand, over the phone to the mother of the lady standing next to me who was also clapping and cheering, and basically enjoying a free concert like the last night of the proms, not at the Royal Albert Hall, but at the local shopping mall. Then I did my shopping, I watched a great film, and from no plans to great events, I just stepped into the slipstream of a fantastic afternoon. Do I need to say that this happens to me, well, quite a lot? Because today we're talking about divine timing. Those moments when everything seems to click in a way that's so precise, so perfect, it feels like the hand of the universe reaching down to guide you. And not just you, but the person you happen to bump into or not bump into. Because divine timing isn't just about being lucky, it's about being ready. It's about answering the call, even when you're scared or unsure. It's about taking steps forward so that when the universe opens the door, you're already standing there. Of course, it depends a bit on what you call divine. It doesn't have to be a religious divinity, but it certainly seems always to be a situation where you couldn't have planned it for yourself and some other power has stepped in. Often it's about what you're called away from, that either saves you from danger or risk and puts you in the way of better luck, or maybe of destiny. Sometimes divine timing is so obvious you can almost feel the gears of the universe crunching. Think about Isaac Newton, sitting alone in an orchard because the plague had shut down his university. The falling apple, that spark of the theory of gravity, came not during a lecture or a laboratory experiment, but in the stillness, in the pause, like me waiting for my Uber driver under a tree. Milton Hershey, yes, the chocolate king. He had tickets for the Titanic's maiden voyage. At the last minute, he stayed behind for business reasons. And imagine the sweetness that the world would have lost had he boarded that ship. Or there's Queen's masterful song, Bohemian Rhapsody, almost silenced by radio rules until one bold DJ played it and unleashed a musical revolution. These are not just lucky breaks, they're invitations, they're orchestrations, opportunities that only became miracles because the people involved were moving, listening, responding. Divine timing, you see, isn't a magic wand. It's a dance between preparation and grace, between what the universe offers and what you are prepared to receive. As Wayne Dyer so beautifully said, everything is happening exactly as it should, whether you understand it or not. He taught that divine timing isn't about hustling harder or worrying more. It's about aligning with what you seek. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts what is meant for you, not by force, but by frequency. As Wayne often reminded us, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So when you stay open, curious, and courageous, the right opportunities recognize you because you're resonating at their level. I know this from so many circumstances in my own life too, like when I decided to set off properly on the path towards becoming a children's author. It had been my lifelong dream, but suddenly at this moment among careers and babies and house commitments, I discovered that the only place in the entire world doing a master's degree in writing for children was 1 mile from my house. 1 mile, people. And as I'd ended up living in that distant city via a very circuitous route, I couldn't help but feel the gentle shove of divine timing in my so-called decision-making process. Or the time I was contemplating new directions for my work, feeling frankly a little lost, a little adrift, when a message came through to me, clear as a bell. This is your new invitation. And suddenly a new course, a new creative journey, and indeed a podcast unfolded before me. But here's the thing. If I hadn't stayed moving, if I hadn't been willing to follow the whispers, even in the dark, I could have missed both. Divine timing meets you where you are, but you have to be on the road. This idea that there is a bigger orchestration behind our experiences is echoed beautifully by Carolyn Mace. Carolyn teaches that each of us has a sacred contract, a spiritual agreement we made before we were born about the experiences, lessons, and the people that would shape us. I describe this more in my book, Breathe. Carolyn writes, you have agreed to certain experiences, relationships, and moments of choice that serve your soul's growth. Divine timing, then, is not random. It's the iteration of those sacred moments when your contract calls you to step forward. Sometimes, as Carolyn reminds us, these openings feel joyful. Other times they arrive disguised as crisis or loss. As she says, crisis is the way the universe gets your attention. And importantly, she adds, healing happens when personal will bows to divine will. Meaning divine timing flows best when we surrender our rigid plans and allow ourselves to be moved by something greater. And when the call comes, when the download lands, you must respond, even if you don't feel ready, even if, perhaps especially if, you're scared. Divine timing doesn't wait for your perfection. It calls you into your becoming. Sometimes the door swings open and you have to step through without a map, because if you wait for certainty, you might miss the miracle. It's often scary, it's sometimes terrifying, but it's where the light comes in and progress is made. So, how can you position yourself to meet divine timing when it arrives? What, in fact, did I suggest to my Uber driver? Here are a few ways. Firstly, stay open. Don't demand to know exactly how and when everything will unfold. Trust the feeling. Next, follow the nudge. If something calls to you, even a whisper, follow the little breadcrumb trail and explore it. Next, take micro actions. 1 paragraph, 1 email, 1 small brave step. They all add up. In The Magic of Thinking Bigger, yet another book I wish I'd written, David J. Schwartz points out that the antidote to fear is action. Any action. Just do something to eliminate the fear and then grow confidence in your process, in a loop. And then trust the preparation. Know that what seems slow or invisible now is setting you up. The orchestration is happening in some adjustment bureau of the universe, and you can't possibly see how far it's stretching. You have to lean in and have faith. And finally, answer the call. When the door opens, even if it feels worrying, walk through it. And if you want to go deeper into how these whispers and downloads shape our lives, listen back to some of my earlier episodes, like Downloads Through Dreams and Doors and the Full Circle Moment. Each one will remind you the magic is always moving towards you. You just have to keep moving towards it. And let me leave you with these words. As Wayne Dyer reminds us, everything is happening exactly as it should, whether you understand it or not. And back to Carolyn Mace, she teaches, we are not meant to understand everything. We are meant to align with the divine mystery and trust that our path will reveal itself one sacred step at a time. Divine timing is already unfolding. Our only task is to stay open, stay moving, and say yes when the invitation comes. And here's your invitation. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to reflect on your own moments of divine timing. Where were you when something arrived that felt too beautiful, too perfect to explain? And where might you be standing right now, on the edge of another miracle? I'd love to hear your stories. Tag me on social media or send me a message. And if you know someone standing on the threshold of their own dream, share this episode with them. Because sometimes your encouragement is the final key they need to step through the door. And until next time, stay open, stay moving. Your moment is already on its way. Thanks for tuning in to the Download podcast. Feel free to like, comment and share and all of that good stuff. And for more about my books, coaching and business services, please check out wisewomanandwordsmith.com. Also, I'd love to hear more about your own intuitive hits and downloads. So do find us on Facebook, YouTube and more.